to talk to you guys sort of like about everything that's been going on with me. Like I've been going to the church, this local church that I've been going to,
Yeah.
and getting really involved. And I really
Into that church.
not into the church.
Well, I mean, like, isn't that what it is? Like, or how do you feel about that?
The clip was only a few seconds long, but it was enough to send shockwaves through the entire Sister Wives fan community. Aurora Brown, quiet and reserved as ever, walking quickly through a parking lot, her head down, her hand resting protectively over her midsection. She didn't look at the camera, she didn't smile, she didn't say a word. And for a girl who grew up in front of the cameras, her sudden silence was almost louder than anything she could have said. The internet froze on that frame, replaying it, zooming in, asking the same question over and over. What's going on with Aurora? Robyn's face told a different story. Not in the clip, but in the days after when she appeared briefly on camera, her eyes red, her voice shaky. She tried to talk about family matters but couldn't keep it together. Her hands trembled, her words broke apart, and in between her gasps for air, there was a look, part fear, part anger, part heartbreak. She wasn't giving details, but her emotions spilled through every pause and every tear. And then there was Cody. Or rather, there wasn't. He was nowhere to be seen. No reassuring presence, no public defense, no appearance beside his daughter or his wife. The silence from him was deafening, and in a family where Cody's voice has always been the loudest in the room, his absence only fueled the whispers. It's impossible to untangle this moment without understanding the people at its center. Aurora, the daughter who's been shielded fiercely by her mother, Robyn, the wife who's fought to hold Cody's attention at all costs, Christine, the one who walked away when she could no longer bear the pain of being sidelined, Janelle, the practical fighter who reached her own breaking point, and Mary, once fiercely loyal, now quietly reclaiming her own life. And of course, Cody himself, the man whose choices have shaped every fracture in this family's story. Hi, I'm Sarah, and welcome back to my channel. If you've been following this family as long as I have, you know this isn't just about one video or one rumor. This is the latest crack in a house that's been splintering for years. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my breakdown of these events. And let me know in the comments what you think is really happening behind the scenes. Because here's the thing, this moment didn't happen out of nowhere. The tension that's now boiling over has been simmering for a long, long time. For years, the family tried to project an image of unity, of harmony, of shared dreams. But if you've been watching closely, you've seen the warning signs. Little moments where Christine's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Times when Janelle's patience cracked just enough for a sharp word to slip out. Moments when Mary looked away instead of speaking up. And at the center of it all was Cody's growing favoritism toward Robyn and her children, a dynamic that left the other wives and their kids feeling pushed aside. Every decision, especially about Coyote Pass, that piece of land that was supposed to be the family's shared future, seemed to tighten his control rather than bring anyone closer together. So when Aurora vanished from public view, when her appearances became rare and her demeanor turned guarded, it wasn't just about her. It was another sign that the fractures in this family weren't healing. They were spreading. And now, with this shocking footage sparking endless speculation, it feels like the breaking point might finally be here. To understand why this moment with Aurora feels so explosive, you have to rewind the clock and watch how the Brown family's so-called unity slowly unraveled. On the surface, they were a plural marriage built on shared values and mutual respect. But behind the smiles and group photos, Cody's heart had already chosen a favorite. From the moment Robyn entered the picture, his attention shifted. Subtle at first, but soon impossible to ignore. He wasn't just treating her differently, he was pouring himself into her children in a way the other kids rarely experienced. And among them, Aurora seemed to hold a particularly tender spot in his heart. There were family events where Cody's energy was magnetic when Robyn's kids were near, yet noticeably flat when his other children tried to share their own milestones. Viewers caught those small but cutting moments, Aurora talking and Cody leaning in, laughing, listening. Then moments later, Christine's daughter speaking and his eyes drifting elsewhere. Over time, those moments stacked up like bricks in a wall, creating a divide no amount of family counseling could break down. Christine was the first to truly say it out loud. Not in anger at Aurora, but in
The
exhaustion with
loss of the
Cody.
family
She'd
culture,
spent
and
years trying to make him see the
I
imbalance, to
there's
make
this
him want to
part of
invest in
me
all the kids
there's this
equally.
part of me that has
But each
wondered,
attempt
if
was met with
Cody's not
defensiveness or dismissal. The night she finally told him she was done wasn't explosive. It was heartbreakingly quiet. She looked at the life they had built
Church
and
then.
realized she'd
Yeah,
been carrying the
absolutely.
emotional
And you're
load
okay with me
alone.
going to church? Like, you're not
Janelle's
gonna have some
journey
sort
was
of problem
different.
with that? I mean,
Yeah, as long
She's
as you
always
guys
been
aren't
practical,
blocking me out, like I wouldn't
willing
come
to work through
sooner or later.
discomfort if it served a bigger goal.
okay, that's why I wasn't
For
sure.
years, that
if
bigger goal
you
was
were,
Coyote Pass, the sprawling piece of land they all dreamed would become their shared paradise. She put her energy into budgeting, planning, even sacrificing comforts for the sake of the future. But the more decisions Cody made unilaterally, the more that dream felt like his personal project rather than a family vision. For Janelle, the breaking point wasn't one big fight. It was the slow realization that she was investing in a dream that wasn't hers anymore. And then there was Mary, loyal to a fault, holding on to the early years of love and partnership long after they had withered. She endured public humiliation, cold indifference, and years of emotional distance because she believed that loyalty was the glue keeping the family from shattering. But even the strongest glue can't hold if the pieces are no longer touching. The day she quietly stepped back wasn't about anger. It was about reclaiming her own sense of worth after years of being invisible. Through it all, Coyote Pass remained this looming, silent presence. Once described as a fresh start for everyone, it became a bargaining chip, a tool for control. Cody's insistence on how and when it would be developed seemed less about family unity and more about ensuring his vision, centered on Robyn, was the only one that mattered. So by the time Aurora's appearances became rare and her demeanor guarded, it wasn't just about a young woman stepping back from the spotlight. It was the culmination of years of favoritism, control, and unspoken resentments. And when that short, unsettling video surfaced, it landed in a family already splintered beyond repair, making the whispers feel less like gossip and more like the final, inevitable turn in a story that had been heading this way for years. At first, Aurora was always there, polite, attentive, and the picture of what Cody and Robyn wanted to present to the world. She'd smile in family interviews, offer soft-spoken answers, and seemed at ease in the constant hum of cameras and questions. But somewhere along the way, that ease began to fade. Her appearances became shorter, her smiles more reserved. Viewers noticed she'd linger in the background instead of joining the main conversation, or she'd suddenly excuse herself mid-scene. It wasn't dramatic, but it was unmistakable for those paying attention. Looking back at old episodes now, certain moments feel different. There was the birthday scene where everyone gathered around the kitchen table, laughter filling the room, and Aurora sat with a faraway look in her eyes, twirling a fork while the conversation carried on without her. Or the Christmas segment where the rest of Robyn's kids opened gifts with excitement, but Aurora's reactions were muted, her voice barely audible. At the time, these moments might have been dismissed as shyness or teenage moodiness, but in hindsight, they read more like someone slowly stepping out of the picture. By the most recent seasons, Aurora was almost invisible. Entire episodes passed without a single mention of her, even when her siblings or Robyn were front and center. Fans began to ask questions in online groups. At first, gentle ones like, "Has anyone seen Aurora lately?" And, "Maybe she's just busy with school?" But the curiosity grew sharper as months went by without a clear answer. Theories began to stack on top of each other, each one feeding the next. Some pointed to the increasing tension between the wives and Cody, wondering if Aurora wanted to distance herself from the drama. Others speculated about her relationship with her biological father, wondering if unseen family dynamics were pulling her away. But it wasn't until a few grainy screenshots appeared on social media that the speculation boiled over into full-blown chaos. The images were blurry, but enough to spark a frenzy, a candid moment outside store, someone claiming it showed Aurora with a noticeably fuller midsection. The post was captioned with a question that lit the match. Is Aurora pregnant? Within hours, it spread like wildfire across fan pages, Reddit threads, and TikTok comment sections. People dissected every angle of the photo, zooming in, drawing circles, comparing it to older pictures. The rumor wasn't just about the possible pregnancy, it was about what it would mean for a family already drowning in fractured trust and public scrutiny. The silence from both Aurora and Robyn only fueled the fire. Cody, who once jumped at the chance to defend his image, said nothing. That absence of a response was deafening, and fans took it as confirmation that something big was being hidden. And just like that, the quiet mystery of Aurora's absence had turned into the loudest, most divisive scandal the Brown family had faced yet. And just like that, the quiet mystery of Aurora's absence had turned into the
loss
loudest,
of the family
most
culture
divisive
and,
scandal the Brown family had
I
faced yet.
there's this part
One
of
that
me,
blurred the line between
there's this part of
personal
me that has
privacy
wondered,
and
if
public spectacle.
Cody's not.
It started like a ripple. Just a few scattered posts in obscure fan groups, screenshots from someone claiming to have spotted Aurora at a local event. At first, it
Church,
seemed
then.
like another
Yeah,
passing
absolutely.
curiosity.
And you're okay with me going
The
to
kind that
church?
fades
like
after
you're
a
not
day
gonna
or
have
two.
some sort of problem with that. I mean,
But
Yeah, as long as you
I'm
guys
not
aren't
sure.
Rumors
blocking
didn't
me
fade.
out, like I want to come
It multiplied.
sooner or later.
Within a week,
okay,
it was everywhere.
that's why I wasn't sure.
Reddit
if you
threads titled in all
were-
caps, TikTok creators dissecting still frames from old episodes, Facebook groups with hundreds of comments in a matter of hours. Everyone seemed to have an opinion, and no one was willing to let it go. Then came the deleted Instagram clip. It was brief, only a few seconds, and captured from a shaky live video. Aurora was in the background wearing a loose, oversized hoodie, her hand briefly resting on her midsection as she turned away from the camera. The clip was taken down almost immediately, but not before it was screen recorded and shared endlessly. Each repost was met with the same frenzied dissection. Was it just a casual gesture? Was she simply cold? Or was this the visual confirmation people had been waiting for? The uncertainty only made the speculation grow louder. More sightings followed, each one adding to the story, whether true or not. A grocery store cashier claimed Aurora came through the line with Robyn, dressed in another baggy sweatshirt, her face half hidden under a cap. A neighbor said they'd seen her walking slowly down the street, bundled in layers despite the mild weather. None of it was proof, but every scrap of description was treated like a clue, in a mystery the internet was determined to solve. Through all of this, Cody was silent. No interviews, no cryptic social media posts, no statements to shut the rumors down. For a man who once jumped at the chance to defend his choices on camera,
Church,
the
then.
absence was
Yeah,
glaring.
absolutely.
And you're
It
okay
didn't
with
just
me going
leave
to
room for
church? Like you're not
speculation.
gonna
Yeah.
have some sort of problem
made
with
it
that.
feel like
Yeah, as long as you
something
guys aren't
choice.
blocking me out, like I want to come.
Viewers began to
sooner or
wonder
later.
if he was avoiding the cameras entirely to
okay,
dodge
that's
the
why I
subject,
wasn't sure.
Yeah.
or if he
you
simply didn't know
were-
how to defend what couldn't be denied. And then, the cameras caught Robyn. It was during what was supposed to be a routine segment, a sit-down interview for the show, but before she could even begin her prepared comments, she broke down. Her shoulders hunched forward, her hands trembled as she tried to steady herself. Her voice cracked as she stumbled over words, and for a moment, she couldn't speak at all. She pressed her fingers to her eyes, shaking her head, whispering that people didn't understand, that things had been twisted. But she never said the words that could have ended it. She never denied the rumor outright. Instead, she looked away, took a deep breath, and gave a vague, almost pleading comment about respecting privacy. The moment was raw, unpolished, and devastating. It didn't calm the storm. If anything, it became the lightning strike that electrified it further, making the speculation feel more real than ever. When Cody finally stepped back into the spotlight, it wasn't with calm explanation or any attempt to ease the chaos. It was with a storm on his face. The moment he appeared on camera, his posture was tight, his jaw locked, his voice raised before anyone even asked the first question. There was no warmth, no sign of a father concerned for his daughter's well-being. Instead, he came armed with accusations, hurling them toward the other wives, toward outsiders who he claimed had been feeding lies, toward anyone he could point a finger at to deflect the heat from himself. He didn't ask how Aurora was coping with the relentless speculation. He didn't acknowledge the sleepless nights she might be having, or the fear that comes from seeing your name churned through online rumor mills. His focus was entirely on how he was being portrayed, how he was the victim of twisted narratives and deliberate sabotage. His words came out sharp, and the more he spoke, the clearer it became. This wasn't about protecting Aurora. This was about protecting Cody's control. The rest of the family sat stiffly, their eyes telling a different story than his booming declarations. Christine crossed her arms, her expression unreadable but heavy with judgment. Janelle kept her gaze low, letting his words pass over her like she'd heard them 100 times before. And Mary, though still quiet, had a faint edge in her stare, the kind that comes from finally seeing the truth laid bare. And then came Robyn's moment. For years she had stood beside him, defended him, smoothed over his rough edges in public, even when the other wives fell away. But this time, something cracked. She cut in mid-sentence, her voice trembling, not with shyness, but with anger. "You weren't here," she said, not shouting, but firm enough to stop him. Cold. The air in the room shifted. She repeated it slower. "You weren't here when it mattered. You weren't here for her." It was the first time on camera that Robyn didn't rush to prop him up. Her face was flushed, her eyes wet, and yet she held his gaze. She didn't accuse him of the rumors. She didn't even demand he believe them or not. She simply laid bare the truth he couldn't deflect. When Aurora needed protection, when the weight of public scrutiny was closing in, Cody had been absent. For a moment, he didn't respond. You could see it in his eyes. The flicker of shock that Robyn, of all people, had broken formation. But then the anger returned. He muttered something about being pushed away, about the others creating a hostile environment that made it impossible for him to be there. It was classic deflection, a reshaping of events to keep himself as the misunderstood one. The tension was suffocating. No one moved to calm him. No one reached to bridge the space between them. The wives didn't speak. Even Robyn leaned back, lips pressed tight as though she had said enough. This wasn't just a disagreement. This was the kind of moment that leaves a permanent fracture, the kind that can't be smoothed over with another family dinner or a staged group photo. The damage wasn't just to Aurora, who had been left exposed in the middle of a firestorm, but to every remaining thread of trust the family had in him. By the time the cameras cut away, the look in each of their eyes said the same thing. Whatever bond had once held them together was slipping, and Cody didn't even notice his own hand letting go. Coyote Pass was supposed to be their future. Wide open skies, rolling hills, the promise of a shared home that would finally bring the Browns together under one vision. Cody had painted it as the crown jewel of their legacy, a place where the kids could grow up side by side, where the wives could live close but separate, where unity would be cemented in soil and stone. But by the time the dust settled, that vision was nothing more than a sales pitch that had long since expired.
The
Christine
loss
was
of
the
the
first
family
to cut the cord.
culture, and
In a move that stunned fans, she
there's
sold
this
her share of the
part of
land for
me-
just $10
there's this
to
part of me
Cody.
that has wondered,
$10?
if
Not even
Cody's
enough to
not
buy lunch. For the dream they'd all been told to cling to. The transaction wasn't just legal, it was symbolic. It was her way of saying, this means
church,
nothing to me
then.
anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're
She
okay
didn't
with
want a
me going
stake
to
in Coyote
church.
Pass.
Like, you're not
Yeah.
gonna have some
She
sort
didn't
of
want the
problem with that. I mean,
ties
I
that
Yeah,
guess
as long as
history
you
had
guys aren't
promised that had
locking
never
me out, like I want
materialized.
to come sooner or
Janelle's
later.
reaction was sharper,
okay,
more
that's
openly
why I
bitter.
wasn't sure.
Yeah.
if
She had
you
invested her own
were-
savings, her own hope, into that plot of dirt. She'd walked it in the early mornings, mapping out where her home might stand, letting herself believe in it even when things with Cody were strained. Watching Christine walk away and realizing she might never see her own vision built cracked something inside her. Her anger wasn't just at Cody's mismanagement. It was at herself for believing him for so long. In the weeks after Aurora's quiet exit, the pieces of the Brown family lay scattered. Not in a way that could be swept up and pieced back together, but in a way that felt permanent. Robyn appeared on camera again, but the light in her had dimmed. Her voice was thinner, her eyes red from nights spent replaying what had happened. She spoke in fragments now, often pausing mid-sentence as though the words she wanted to say were too heavy to lift. She didn't just lose the family she married into. She lost the belief that love could hold it all together. Cody, for his part, seemed smaller, even in his anger. Without the wives, without the unified front he once commanded, he looked more like a man pacing in his own shadow than the leader of anything. His visits to Coyote Pass grew fewer until they stopped altogether. Whether it was pride, shame, or simply not wanting to face the empty land, no one could say. What was clear was that the space meant to hold their dreams was now just space. But it was Aurora's walk that lingered most. The image played over in fans' minds, not just a young woman leaving a home, but someone breaking away from a story that was written for her before she could hold the pen. Each step she took was a rejection of the image the family had spent years projecting. Unity, love, shared purpose. She didn't need to speak for everyone to understand that sometimes the only way to survive a collapsing house is to get out before it falls on you. And so the question remains, can this family, with its fractures now laid bare and its symbols turned to dust, ever truly recover? Or has too much been said, too much been lost for there to be a way back? Thank you for being here, for watching, and for sharing in this journey with me. If you felt the weight of these moments as much as I have, please subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going.